What lessons did Adam Beckman and Calen Addison pull from their time with the Minnesota Wild this season? What do they like to do off the ice? We ask both players that and more questions. Plus, we recap the Wild's 7-2 win over the Dallas Stars today on Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen every day. And just as a reminder, Locked On Wild is free and available wherever you listen to podcasts. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we are joined by Iowa Wild forward Adam Beckman and Iowa Wild defenseman Calen Addison for a chat about their time with the Wild earlier this season, as well as some of their likes off the ice and what they think of their playing styles when they are on the ice. So a great chat with both players here today. We will also recap the Wild's 7-2 win over the Dallas Stars as well. My name is Seth Topal, host of Locked On Wild, veteran Minnesota sports content producer with over a decade's worth of experience covering all of the teams here in the state of Minnesota. And happy to have you along for a Friday edition of the show. Minnesota Wild winners last night by a score of 7-2 to improve to 11-5 on the season. We'll talk about that at the end of the episode here today, but didn't want to waste any time getting to our main attractions for today's show. We've got Adam Beckman and Calen Addison, and chats with both players. A great conversation with both Adam and Calen. So we'll get to those here for you to kick things off and get your Friday started off right. And our first guest on today's episode of Locked On Wild is Iowa Wild forward Adam Beckman, who joins to talk about his stint with the Minnesota Wild this year, as well as how things are going in Iowa, and some other questions as well. Adam, first off, thank you for joining. How are things going?
They're going good. Thanks for having me.
Let's just start with, for listeners who maybe aren't familiar with you, I know a lot of the Iowa Wild audience probably is, but just tell us a little bit about your hockey journey and how you got to be part of the Iowa Wild.
Yeah, I grew up playing hockey in a place called Saskatchewan in Canada. I played junior hockey in Spokane for the Spokane Chiefs, and then I was drafted by the Minnesota Wild, and now I'm playing in their minor league organization, I guess, the Iowa Wild.
Had a chance to hop up and play with the Wild here after going through training camp with the team. What were some of the more notable things that you took away from your time with the Wild, both in training camp and during the season too?
Yeah, there's a ton of things I think you learn. Obviously, being around that caliber of players, just the level of play they play at every single day, and the practice habits and the way they approach the game is. It's so professional and so consistent. So there's so many things you can take away from it, but it was a ton of fun and awesome experience.
Obviously, you're hoping to get to that level here in the near future. What sort of a confidence boost did that give you to be able to hop up there and play with those guys and hold your own?
Yeah, obviously, I think that's something that playing in the NHL is something you dream about for a long time and you really think about. So to do that, it was kind of cool to experience it, but it just makes you want to get there even more. So just learning from that and trying to be comfortable with the guys on the ice and stuff like that is something that it's good to experience being there. So I think for me, just the experience is something that I definitely take away from it.
Back down at Iowa, how have things been going with Iowa so far this year for you?
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. I think our group's really good, and we've been winning quite a few games the last few little bit, so hopefully we can continue that. But the coaching staff and the players and everybody's been awesome. That's a ton of fun going to the rink, so it's been awesome.
Your style on the ice, are you an agitator? Do you like to kind of try to get under other players' skin, or are you just looking to bury the puck in the net every time you go out there?
I don't know. I think I'm a little bit yappy. but I don't know. I'm definitely not an agitator, not a fighter. If you guys might probably saw that or know that, but a little bit of an agitator. I like to kind of stir the pot a little bit.
Thank you for mentioning. Obviously, that had a chance to get into a little bit of a scrum when you were up with Minnesota. You win some, you lose some. What was some of the reaction from teammates with that fight?
Yeah, I think for some of the guys that knew me, they were just kind of laughing about it because obviously my nose was pretty big for a couple of days, so they're obviously making fun of that. But I think they were just a little bit surprised too because it's something that I probably you wouldn't have suspected me to do, but at the same time, it's something that I think it's important, and it's important to try to be gritty. You have to play hard, and you have to do stuff like that. So if that happens, you got to sometimes maybe have to answer the bell.
With your playing style, any players in the NHL that you've modeled your game after as you've grown through the various levels?
Yeah, I don't know. I think when I was young, I don't know if I necessarily modeled my game around them, but if I was to compare myself to a player in the NHL, when I was young, I'd always say like Jake Gensel or something like that, kind of that winger that likes to score and likes to make plays, and it's kind of how I've compared myself to it, I guess.
Sure. Pre-game routine. Any superstitions you run through, or anything that you need to do to kind of get yourself into game mode every day?
I don't know, nothing like too crazy. I think there's some guys that might have some crazy stuff that they'd probably. I don't know if they would share it with you or not, but I think my routine is just kind of routine, like to do the same type of things every day, but nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary. I don't think.
Sure. In the off season, time to kind of recharge the batteries, get away from the rink. Where are we going to find you? Are you somebody that likes to be kind of out in the elements, out in nature, or what are you doing to help recharge those batteries in the off season?
Yeah, there's tons of different things. I think I definitely like to be outside. I'm not much of a homebody or anything like that. I don't like to play video games or anything like that. So if I'm playing tennis or obviously working out and skating takes up quite a bit of time. But if you're not doing that, try to go to the lake and have some fun there. Maybe do a little bit of wake surf and stuff like that.
In terms of music, obviously huge in the NHL realm. Who are some of your go-to artists?
Probably for me right now is like Morgan Wallen or Luke Combs. I'm a pretty big
Okay.
country guy. It's other than when you have games or anything like that, I don't listen too much rap or music like that unless I'm at the rink. So that type of stuff, especially in my day to day.
Just looking at the rest of the team as well. We'll just go with the Iowa roster, and any teammates that are like the pranksters that are trying to kind of keep everybody loose in the locker room on any given day.
Yeah, there's a pretty good group of guys. I think that it's pretty loose for the most part. Guy I live with, Joe Hickett's, is kind of an oddball. He's kind of walking around the room joking with guys 24/7. So he'd be one of the guys I think that I'd bring up because he's pretty well always trying to agitate, to say the least, or get under guys' skin or bug them. But I deal with that day to day, so I like to think that maybe I run his show a little bit.
Perfect. Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining us here today, and best of luck throughout the course of the rest of the season. Look forward to seeing how things go for you, and we'll have to do this again a little bit later on in the year.
Thanks, Seth. Appreciate it.
Holiday season is right around the corner, and with it, every type of dessert you can possibly imagine. Pies, cakes, cookies, candy, and all of that comes with calories. What if I were to tell you that there is a way to get all of those delicious tastes without all the calories? Enter Built Bar. Built Bar is an amazing way to get those favorite dessert tastes for half of the calories. One slice of pie, for example, has upwards of 300 calories on the low end. Built Bars contain only 130 calories and only 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. Low calorie, low carb, low fat, high protein, covered in 100% real chocolate. So head to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off of your order. Again, use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Our next guest on today's episode of Locked On Wild is Iowa Wild defenseman Calen Addison. We will chat about his stop with the Minnesota Wild earlier this season, as well as his overall game and likes off the rink as well. Calen, thanks for joining me. How are things going?
Thanks for having me. Doing pretty good. You?
Doing great. We're getting to the end of 2021, which is just crazy. I don't know where the time went, but hockey season is upon us, and obviously you have been pulling double duty here with the Minnesota Wild and the Iowa Wild. So before we get to that, just for the listeners that maybe aren't sure or aware, just give us a little bit of your hockey story, your journey to the Iowa Wilds. What were some of the levels that you were at before this? Obviously, the trade to Minnesota as well. Just catch us up on how you got to be a member of the Iowa Wilds.
Yeah, it's been a lot of different stops, different cities, and growing up in Brandon and then moving to Thompson up north, and then starting playing hockey there, and then moving back to Brandon again when I was 7, and I played all my minor hockey in Thompson and Brandon and that growing up. And then I was drafted to the Lethbridge Hurricanes in the WHL. So I played there for my junior years. And, here I am now. I mean, after getting drafted to Pittsburgh and, playing a few games in Wilkes-Barre when I was 18. And then, a little while after World Juniors at 19, 20 years old, you don't really expect to get a call that, you've been traded in the NHL. And I mean, that was something that, definitely caught me by surprise and was a huge shock to me. But I mean, I love it here. And, the Wild have done a lot for me so far.
You've had a couple of opportunities to get up with the big club. What were some of the things that were most eye-opening to you about playing at the NHL level?
I think in a way it's very different from the American League. Obviously, the level of skill and play with some of those guys up there is just insane. I mean, defending, guys like McKinnon, stuff like that, that's obviously a whole different level. But I mean, in a different way, I think the NHL is almost slower at times because of it's more puck possession and holding onto the puck, a lot of transition, stuff like that. And so in a way, I think it's almost easier and with the puck, I mean, everyone's so smart. Everyone wants puck possession. Everyone wants to make plays. And I mean, obviously defensively, it's extremely hard. And but I think those are the two biggest things I notice.
How much of a confidence boost does that give you, knowing that you've had a couple of stints, you've been able to compete at that level with those players, and so obviously your goal is to get to the NHL level as soon as possible. But how much of a lift does that give you, knowing that when that time does come, you are ready to step in with those guys?
Yeah, I think it just makes you hungry. I think that's the best way to explain it. I've heard stories of guys before that, once they go up and, once you get a taste, you just, nothing can beat that. And, you just want it that much more. And I mean, that couldn't be more true, really. As soon as you get a few games, you get in there, you start making an impact and getting your rhythm. I think, you just want to stay that much more. And, I mean, I love playing in Iowa. I love the city. I love our coaches, our team, and I love it here, but definitely makes you hungry once you've been up there and had a taste.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into just talking a little bit about the Iowa Wilds. Now that you're back down with Iowa, how has the season been going so far?
It's been really good. We have obviously an extremely deep team this year. I think our team could do some serious damage come playoff time. All 4 lines, all our D, goaltending, just great. We have an unbelievable group of guys last year and this year. Great group of guys, great coaching. Really can't say enough good things about everyone and the city. I love it here.
Now, your style specifically, when you're out on the ice, Are you more of kind of a try to get under the opposing player's skin defenseman, or what sort of style do you like to have when you're out on the ice?
Say kind of a mixture of a lot of different things. I mean, there's times where I'm all offense. There's times where I'm, all defense, and there's times where there's a mixture. And then, there's times where I do like to get under guys' skin and play with a little bit of bite. And, I think in today's game where, there's a lot of smaller players, I think the biggest thing is if you're small, you got to play like you're big. And I mean, size and height and weight, that's it's not really a factor anymore. It's about the compete and the heart you have inside. So to answer your question, I guess I'm just a competitive guy, and I like to compete all over the ice, no matter how that plays out.
For sure. You had a chance to be profiled in the Becoming Wild series, just looking at kind of your journey to where you're at now and some of your off-season training. What was that experience like?
Yeah. Very fun experience. Quite funny, actually. I had a good couple days with Chris and Brandon in Brandon. And I mean, those are two great guys, great at their job, and they made it easy for me. And just a cool episode, though. I mean, for my family and I, it's pretty cool to have a show like that about you, and just to kind of watch it and see how far you've come and those sorts of things. Yeah, like I said, just it was lots of fun and good couple days.
Outstanding. Piggybacking off of that, that time you get in the off season to just recharge the batteries a little bit. Obviously, you're heading back home, I'm sure. But what are some of the things you like to do just to kind of unwind and get some energy back during the off season?
If I'm not working out or skating, I'm usually just hanging out with a friend, or in the summer, I'm a big tennis and pickleball guy. I started getting into pickleball this summer, and that is one awesome sport. Very different from tennis, but those are my two favorites for sure to kill some free time.
For sure. When you're getting ready for a game, any routine you go through in particular, any sort of music you pop in the headphones just to kind of get yourself into that game mode?
No, nothing crazy. I mean, kind of do the same stretching and warming up, I guess you could say. And I'm not too superstitious.
Any music that you are really into at this point in the year? I mean, we're getting close to winter. Anything in particular that's popping up in the headphones?
No, nothing crazy. I'm kind of all over the map. Huge country music fan, though. That's definitely my number one. And but I like all different kinds.
Whatever hits you at that particular time, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Excellent. Well, Calen, thank you so much for giving us a little time here today to talk about how the season's going and your journey to the NHL as well. Best of luck the rest of the season. We'll definitely have to do this a little bit further on in the year.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
BetOnline.ag is back, and they are better than ever. They offer a new, updated interface for the start of the basketball season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline.ag remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. So head over to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive that welcome bonus. From basketball, football, the NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline.ag is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. And again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen every day. Big thanks first and foremost to Adam Beckman and Calen Addison for joining the show today. Some great insight from both of them, and we wish them well on their seasons here as they unfold. Hopefully we'll have a chance to talk to them again before all is said and done. Let's talk a little bit about the Wild's win over the Dallas Stars, shall we? Wild welcoming Dallas to the XL Energy Center last night. A homecoming for Ryan Suter. his first time being a Dallas Star and playing on the road against the Wild. And so obviously a lot of motivation for Suter to try to beat his former team, signed with the Dallas Stars because he thought that that gave him a better chance to compete for a Stanley Cup after he was bought out by the Minnesota Wild. Wild got the last laugh, though, in this game. It was a total laugher, 7-2. Wild get the win. And a lot of good to break down in this one after the loss to the San Jose Sharks on Tuesday night. The Wild bounced back in a major way, got off to an early lead. And a couple of the key things that I was impressed with in the game was the Stars came into this matchup with the third best power play percentage in the league at over 28% on the power play. The Wild held them to 1 of 6 on power play opportunities. So the penalty kill, arguably their best showing of the season in this game. And that is a common theme as well. Best showing for the penalty kill in Thursday night's game. Also best showing of the season for Cam Talbot, who stopped 36 of 38 shots and had a goals expected average of 3.6, and so only gave up the 2 goals. So able to save more than what the stats anticipated that he would, and so his best performance, like I said, of the season was great and was aggressive with trying to help clear the puck out in front of him in this one. The big thing to take away from tonight's game is obviously we've talked at length about Kirill Kaprizov's performance over the last couple of weeks and wanting to see a little more from him, trying to get him going by moving the line combinations around a little bit. And Dean Evason going back to the well here in this one tonight as he reunites Victor Rask and Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Zuccarello for a couple of stretches. And for whatever reason, that combo is very good together. And it showed again tonight as Kaprizov had a goal and 3 assists. Zuccarello had a goal. Victor Rask had a goal as well. And so, we've made all this discussion about trying to find that center to pair with Kirill Kaprizov. Maybe it was Victor Rask all along. Maybe for whatever reason, there may not be any rhyme or reason to it. But for whatever reason, that combo seems to work well together. And so maybe we just leave it as is and see if that can kind of get things going in the right direction. Now, there were certainly other good performances in the game here tonight. Obviously, a homecoming game for Alex Goligoski, who was formerly a member of the Dallas Stars. But you look up and down the score sheet for the Wild. They had 12 players record points here in this one. Freddie Gaudreau with a goal. Ryan Hartman with his 8th goal of the season. Rem Pitlick had another goal. Victor Rask had a goal and an assist. Matt Zuccarello with a goal and 2 assists. And Goligoski with a goal and 2 assists as well. Those line combinations reunited seemed to really do the trick, because we also saw the reuniting of the Eriksson Ek, Greenway, and Foligno line. Now that line a little more quiet, but you saw some good things from the Sturm, Pitlick, and Duhaime line. Obviously, Pitlick getting a goal. So we saw some good things from that 4th line. We also saw some good things from the Gaudreau, Fiala, and Hartman line. So I liked the fact that Dean Evason was willing to kind of mix and match things, and especially mixing and matching that Kaprizov, Rask, and Zuccarello combo after a penalty kill to give those guys fresh legs and take advantage of opportunities. And in fact, interesting stat here, that 3 different times when those 3 were put on the ice after a penalty kill, they ended up scoring. So Kaprizov with arguably his best game of the season, back to doing some of those things that we've seen from him in the past, skating around the perimeter of the zone, the crazy passes. He had one off of a Stars player's skate, off of the post to set up Matt Zuccarello for his goal. Just filthy passes by Kaprizov. And so a great win for the Wild against Dallas and getting them back on track before a very tricky road trip against the Florida Panthers, who are undefeated at home, and the Tampa Bay Lightning as well. Although if the Wild play like they did tonight, going to be hard for them to be beaten even on the road. So should be a great weekend for the Wild, and hopefully they're able to. In these situations, I think you always want at least a split. But it's been a crazy year so far, so who's to say that they can't do a little more than that? We'll just have to wait and see. That is going to wrap it up for today's episode of Locked on Wild. Big thank you, as mentioned before, to Calen Addison and Adam Beckman for joining the show today. Now that your first listen is done, we invite you to tune in to Locked on NHL to get a full look at everything happening in the NHL throughout the week, as well as looking ahead to the weekend. Locked on NHL is available wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to follow Locked on Wild wherever you listen to podcasts as well. You can also follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube as well. We have you covered with different forms of content on every platform, and just trying to keep you as up to date on the Minnesota Wild as we possibly can. You can stay further involved in Minnesota Wild news and notes by checking out Locked on Wild with new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked on Podcast Network.